the whole question of women is crucial in the overall struggle, mainly because women are something to be, quote, taken advantage of. Women are, quote, something to be taken for granted. Women are, quote, something to be used and abused. You know, like these things come to my mind.
Since its inception, America has treated rape as a taboo topic, avoiding the necessary conversations over rape in private settings and, more importantly, in public settings. Avoiding this debate over how to use legislation to prevent and protect against sexual violence.
I will be more connected to the man who raped me than other people in my life. Like it is a almost consensual relationship, because I want justice and I want to keep him off the streets. I was raped. A man broke into my apartment and I woke up with someone on top of me with the knife. And so I was raped that morning and I had 12 counts of rape against that person. I never saw that person. It may seem crazy, like, how did you not see them? But when someone tells you to close your eyes, not look at them, or they're going to kill you, and being very young then, I went ahead and went along with that. The female police officer who I'm with, she's like, they're not really taking it very seriously. I'm going to give you the card for Detective Hector Heredia, who's working the case. And you should contact him. And basically she has to tell the person from Western Nurses Association how to collect the evidence. Like, the girl was new. She didn't really know what she was doing. So like a traumatic event, right? And I'm already a feminist. I'm well-educated, at least I had a BA at that time, right? I'm like, what is happening? Like, it's getting like worse and worse. Like it's one thing to be raped, right? It's another thing to have the system not work to benefit of a survivor, right?
The passage of the Violence Against Women Act marked the culmination of survivors and activists' demands for action in the epidemic of sexual violence.
The first well-publicized step towards the Violence Against Women Act occurred in 1974.
August 27, 1974, the body of Clarence Olligood, Beaufort County, North Carolina's lone night jailer, was found in one of the jail cells. The 62-year-old white man had been stabbed 11 times with an ice pick he kept in a desk drawer. At first, the incident appeared to be a simple case of murder and escape by a black woman prisoner, the lone occupant of the women's section. The missing woman, 20-year-old Joanne Little, pleading self-defense, gave herself up to authorities. The case has become a cause among women's and civil rights groups, which are raising allegations about what goes on in small-town jails and what rights women have to defend themselves against sexual attack.
I just didn't know what to do. I was so frightened I didn't know what to do.
The arrest of Joan Little finally sparked the inevitable debate over how to prevent and prosecute rape. Joan Little became a symbol of the fledgling anti-rape movement. And thanks largely to the efforts of groups like the National Black Feminist Organization and the Women's Legal Defense Fund, Joan Little was eventually acquitted of murder on the grounds of self-defense. But the major legislative impact of her case wouldn't truly be seen until 1994.
In 1994, the very controversial Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, better known as the Crime Bill, was proposed. As part of the Crime Bill, the Violence Against Women Act was introduced. This bill, championed by then-Senator Joe Biden, attempted to protect and prevent against rape by supporting effective prevention legislation, as well as supporting responses to domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, and stalking.
One large part of the Violence Against Women Act was the creation of the Rape Prevention and Education Program. This program is still in effect today, most recently reauthorized in 2013. Ran by the Centers for Disease Control, the program attempts to stop sexual violence before it begins, by focusing on reducing risk factors linked to sexual violence perpetration and victimization, using state and community data to implement prevention programs in highly affected areas. For example, a program called Safe Dates, which is a school-based prevention program, was created using funding from the Rape Prevention and Education Program, and was designed to prevent the initiation of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse in adolescent dating relationships.
With the introduction of the Violence Against Women Act came debate, as criticisms of the bill were brought to light. For example, many conservative groups like the Family Research Council, Heritage Action, and Freedom Works argue that the bill is an overreach of the federal government and that it's simply feminists attacking family values.
No, I don't. Well, I guess the idea of the law was that if we highlight this pandemic nature of violence against women, it will start to change society's attitudes so that patriarchy will no longer have a stronghold. But what I think is problematic is the proponents never really offered good proof that that is what was leading to violence in the first place. So most social scientists and police and clinical practice evidence actually shows that domestic violence is caused by a variety of causes.
The right-wing Republicans in Congress want to see tribal courts be able to prosecute sexual assault crimes, that sort of thing.
Criticisms of the Violence Against Women Act did not just come from conservatives. In fact, many liberal groups also pointed out flaws. These groups included National Indigenous Women's Resource Center, who argued that the bill was flawed as it didn't allow tribal courts the power to persecute non-Native people who commit sexually based crimes against Native people.
When you have the combination of the silence that comes from victims who live in fear and a lack of accountability by outside jurisdictions to prosecute that crime, you've created, if you will, the perfect storm for domestic violence and sexual assault, which is exactly what all the statistics would sort of bear out.
I never tried to report it because I knew nothing would ever happen. I knew nothing would be done.
In 2/3 of all cases where a non-Native man sexually abused a Native woman, federal prosecutors declined to charge the man, leaving Native women with very little legal support.
The Violence Against Women Act was eventually passed by the Senate with a vote of 61 to 38, but the bill was not without flaws.
When laws are passed, not every part of a law works for a survivor. So parts of laws do.
Survivors and activists for the Violence Against Women Act, like Renee, are the first to recognize that not every piece of legislation works to protect everyone, which is precisely why this debate over rape legislation is still seen today. Over the years, the Violence Against Women Act has undergone many changes, fixing some of its most obvious flaws. But even so, the law is still not perfect in the eyes of many.
One of the most well-known flaws of the Violence Against Women Act came to national attention with the case of People v. Brock Turner, reinvigorating debate over the topic of rape. In this case, Turner was convicted of sexually assaulting an unconscious woman, but served only 3 months due to the Criminal Justice Realignment Act of 2011, now known as the Brock Turner loophole. This loophole allowed judges to grant low prison sentences and sometimes even just probation to a convicted rapist when the rape occurs when the victim is unable to fight against their attacker. Judge Perksey, the judge in this case, argued that a prison sentence would have adverse collateral consequences.
This sentencing sparked national and even international attention and debate. In the resulting months, it came to light that Judge Persky had a history of a slew of bad decisions involving sex crimes and violence against women. California voters chose to recall him, the first judge to be recalled in over 80 years. After the ensuing debate over the sentencing of convicted rapists, Assembly Bill 2888 was passed in 2016 to close this loophole and ensure fair sentencing. Through victories like these, activists have slowly pushed their way to stronger, more perfect rape legislation. However, as many activists argue, the law is nowhere near perfection, and the debate over rape is just as relevant now as it ever was.
We need to be a country that has zero tolerance for assaults, for rape, for harassment, for using power to leverage and extract any kind of acquiescence from females or anybody else.
It's kind of like this taboo thing, and it's uncomfortable and it's triggering, but we have to remove the layers off of it, because the more that we can talk about it and create space to talk about it, then the more people are willing to come forward and say, I was raped.